Hello, I'm Richard with EV4U Custom Conversions, and welcome to another episode with our 1991 Volkswagen Double Cab Transporter. Recap of what we have left to do on this project is the cooling for the controller, the power steering, the charge port, and we have to install the batteries and connect them. And then of course we'll program the controller and test all of our high voltage stuff. We've been testing the 12 volt accessories as we do them, and everything's working. So let's move on here. The owner of the vehicle has said that he only will be charging on 110 volts, and so that was the only charge capability that he was interested in, and he was very specific about where he wanted that located, and he put this little piece of tape on the bumper, and so that's where we're going to put the charge port. Not necessarily a spot that I would have chose, but like I said, we build the suit, so to speak, and if that's what he wants, then that's what we'll give him. You know, nothing particularly wrong with that location, but if you were in a fender bender or something, that's a location that could be hit back into a pole or something. So anyway, it's just not a common spot to put one because there are certain liabilities being located on the bumper. But he even talked about replacing the bumper at one point, so that will kind of probably not happen if we put the charge port there. But it does allow us to not drill in the body, which is something that we always try to avoid. And we were able to run our conduit through an existing hole here and bring it over there. So we will be drilling a hole in the bumper, but beyond that, won't be drilling any holes in the body. Typically, we like to put the charge port where the gas filler was. And so let's take a look at where that is on this particular vehicle. Well, here's the stock gas filler location on the transporter. It's just behind the front passenger side of the vehicle. And so the tube went from here down to the tank, which sat under the floor underneath the back seat area here. And the tank is pretty good size, but thin. And but this would have been the spot where we would have put the charge port. What we're going to do with this one is we'll engrave a little piece that will go over this so that nobody would accidentally put fuel in it. That will be a picture of the gas pump with the circle and the line through it. We'll put that there. It'll be black and white, so it won't be you know, jumping out at you. It'll be rather subtle, but it'll be there nonetheless. It'll be over the key so that nobody would accidentally put fuel in here. I don't know how that might happen, but you know, better safe than sorry. And it kind of makes a statement that no fuel required. Well, let's show you a common charge port is the J1772. And this is a nice one. This is made from billet aluminum, and it is available from Modular EV Power. And this is the little AVC2 module that goes with it, which communicates with the charger and the charge port. or I should say the EVSE. And so this would be, you know, a typical application, and we typically will put on both of these. In other words, we'll have the J1772 for the 240 volt charging, and then we would also install the Marenco charger. This is a 15 amp 110 volt charge port, and in this case, like I mentioned a minute ago, we're only going to be installing this particular one. So means it'll take a little bit longer to charge, but you know, depending on your habits, that's not necessarily a big deal. I only charge the Karmann Ghia at 110 volts. I've driven it up to 83 miles in one day before. It averages 50 miles a day and has a range between 50 and 60 miles with my driving. And so it's not a big deal. Whenever it's in the shop, it's being charged. When people ask me how long it takes to charge, I on occasion jokingly say, I don't know, I'm asleep. Because reality is most people will charge at home at night, especially if you have time of use electric rates. We don't here, so it really doesn't matter. And it doesn't use enough that I'm concerned about it one way or the other. I mean, it adds about $32 to $34 to my average electric bill. And when part of that's at home and part of it's at the shop, by the time you slice it up, you don't notice it at all. So anyway, we're going to mount this in the bumper and connect it to our wiring, which then goes forward into the treasure chest area where we mounted the charger, which we showed earlier. So let's see how this thing goes in. Well, when doing something like this, we want to make sure it's going to work. And so it looks like a flat surface here, which is good because we have a flat mounting application here. And I can put this here and see that yes, indeed, it's going to fit in the spot desired. And as far as mounting nice and flat, making a good seal. And then depth-wise, you know, it's not as deep as the bumper, which is good. It'll keep all of our wiring tucked out of sight. We have a watertight seal for the flexible conduit for that end. This end we will probably silicone to help it seal there. You know, preferably when we mount these things in the gas filler area, it's usually a place that's protected from the elements a little more than the bumper in the back here is going to be. But anyway, let's cut our hole. Well, I moved my conduit out of the way. It was laying inside the bumper here. We don't want to drill through it. So we're going to start with a little pilot hole here. And we'll step this up a little bit. And we're going to go to our stepper drill here. And we're going to change batteries. Okay, that's as large as I have with a drill bit, and so we're going to get another cutter out and enlarge that. Well, here's the charge port in place in the bumper. We'll put some little stainless steel screws with some nylon stop nuts in there to hold it in place. But the bumper's in not the best shape. I mean, no dents or dings, but it's pretty blotchy. The paint has seen better days. And the guys are going to be painting some other items tomorrow or the next day. So we're going to pull this off and let it get painted too. It's a nice fresh black will make that look good. And it'll be a little easier to install then with the bumper off. We'll get the right angle here and everything a little easier. And so pull off the bumper and get it painted, and we'll continue this at that time. So next we're going to move on to the controller cooling. And so we're going to figure out where we're going to locate the components for that. So we'll take a look at that. Here's a shot without the bumper with our Romex and connector, the conduit and so forth in place, ready to be installed once the bumper is painted. Here's a shot of the power steering motor. It's just temporarily in its location here so that we could design the mounts, so forth. It needs to all be taken back out and all the mounting hardware cleaned and painted. But this is how it is going in. There's the reservoir. There's the pump. There's the motor. And behind power steering motor is the pump for our controller cooling system. Motor is shock mounted for the power steering to try and lessen the amount of vibration and noise transmitted to the vehicle of the car. So there it is. This was probably the biggest hassle so far, is getting this to all fit together with using the stock hoses and so forth. But we made it work. Then our coolant reservoir will go right in this area, just above this kind of, and off to the side. We'll show you that next time. Well, since once it's installed, it will be hard to see. This is a shot of the radiator that will be used for cooling the Curtis controller. And we're going to test the fans to make sure they work. And I've taped a paper shop towel to the radiator just so you'll hear the air, but this will show it. So this moves quite a bit of air. For the size, they work very well. So let's show you a little bit of a close-up here, what we're dealing with. This is the radiator. It's going to be our inlet and outlet for the plumbing. On the back side, we have 3 high volume fans These put out quite a bit of air, as you saw, and really do a good job of cooling for the size and weight, and it's very quiet actually also. And so they work real well. This will be located up in the area above the transaxle. There's quite a bit of space up there. This will be mounted in that area, and should work quite well, be protected from anything, any road hazards. So I wanted to show it to you before we got busy and installed it and you didn't get a good view. So this is the radiator. We'll show you the try to get a view of the pump. It's already installed, but we'll show you the plumbing. We're using the stock coolant reservoir for this also, and we'll show you that. And so as soon as we get this installed and everything plumbed, we'll do our best to show it to you in the vehicle. So here's a shot looking through the engine compartment opening. We still haven't pulled out the power steering bracket, so forth, and clean and paint that, but that's coming up soon. Pull that apart. But what I wanted to show you right now is the coolant reservoir and cooling system for the Curtis controller. We showed you the chill plate that mounted, or that the controller mounted to, and that's this right here. This is the heat sink on the Curtis. This is the chill plate. We showed you how that worked. And so we are using the stock coolant reservoir off the vehicle. In order to have it be the highest point in the system, it's right up, it's about as far as we can go. Then we use some of the stock hoses. For instance, coming out of the reservoir, the stock hose had a couple angles to it that worked out perfect for our purposes. So we're using that both for the angle and for a reduction coming out of there to match our hosing size. And then it comes out of the reservoir and goes into our pump. This is the inlet line. This is the line going out, and that goes to our radiator, which we showed you previously. It's mounted back behind all this, well, down below and behind. It's above the transaxle, and well, actually, I'm sorry. It's coming out of the pump and going to our chill plate. It comes out of the chill plate and goes to our cooler, which is down here underneath the motor. It goes through the cooler, which is hopefully in an airstream, but yet not in a position where it can be damaged. Goes through the cooler, comes out of the cooler, and goes up to our radiator. Goes through the radiator and then comes back into our and is returned to the top inlet on the reservoir. So that's the loop. From the reservoir to the pump, to the chill plate, to the cooler, to the radiator, and back to our reservoir. Well, in testing it a few moments ago, we found out that we have a leak in our radiator. And so we're going to see if it's going to be repairable or if we're going to have to replace it. So that's the status there. Those things happen. It's always nice to buy something that's brand new and have issues. So that's what's next. Get the bracketry all finished for the power steering, fix the radiator, and then we're about ready to clean things up and start installing our batteries. Stay with us. Here's a quick shot of the controller cooling setup with the power steering motor out of the way. We disassembled all that to paint the bracketry. So before we put it back in, I thought we'd show you this little shot right here. You can see the pump clearly now. And so you can see how it's coming out of the reservoir, as we mentioned several times before. Out of the reservoir, through the pump, up through our chill plate, out of the chill plate. It comes down. You can kind of see it right here, and it's going to our radiator, which is back up underneath. You really can't see it, and comes out of that and goes to our cooler, which is underneath the motor there, and comes up out of the cooler. That's the return line right there, out of the cooler, and back to the reservoir. So I just thought I'd give you a quick unobstructed view of that, and then the next shot we'll show you is once the power steering is in place with the painted brackets. Give you a quick shot of that too. Here's a shot with the bumper back in place after having been painted. It's got the Marinco charge port in place. The power steering bolted and adjusted with the belt on, so forth. There we go. Here's the charge port the customer wanted, in the exact spot that he wanted. It's fairly, I guess we could probably use black screws and they'd disappear a little more. We might swap those out. So there it is. Power steering in place. You can see the pump below the motor. So we'll do some testing before we bundle up all our wires. They're kind of hanging loose at the moment, but we'll clean that up. Things will go in, will be tied together with zip ties and then banded in the split loom. But we leave everything exposed till after the testing, just in case. Don't like to have to take things apart. So there it is. Next, let's start putting these batteries in.